Welcome to City Snippet. Today we're going to visit the greater Cleveland area in Northeast Ohio. Corn was in season, but more about that later. We made this trip our first flight since the before times to visit relatives. And August is peak summer in the area. My mom's rose bushes were blooming and bees were buzzing. We joined my sister for a wander through the Cleveland Museum of Art, in my opinion, a world-class art museum. And I particularly like the huge atrium area, which has a 1916 building on its south side and is bookended by east and west wings with the main entrance and store and lobby on the north side. This was our favorite exhibit, the Fashioning Identity Mola Textiles of Panama exhibit. The strong colors and layered textures were beautiful and intricate. But next up, we had lunch in the Flats, a neighborhood of Cleveland on the Cuyahoga River. Along with the Cleveland Museum of Art nearby, there's also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the West Side Market, and lots of restaurants and bars with outdoor seating. The picturesque Blue Bridge is the main avenue bridge. Come Friday night, we just had to hit the Autorama, a local drive-in movie theater. It has 2 huge screens and a pretty decent concession stand. And then the next morning, remember how I mentioned corn a couple minutes ago? It's time to visit the Corn Fest. It was just a coincidence that the annual North Ridgeville Corn Festival was taking place the weekend of our visit to the area. So we sampled some corn and oh my goodness, it was delicious. And Mr. Carnivore had 4 ears of corn. Sadly, there was no corn eating contest and rides were canceled this year. But the vintage car show and its competition was still happening. So we eventually made our way over to that to check out the old cars. The vintage cars were parked and available for viewing in the parking lot of the community park in that area. And I gotta tell you, I do not know pretty much anything about vintage cars, but I do enjoy walking through and seeing the really different shapes of cars over the years. Some of the I think these were from like the 50s. They had that really snazzy looking, kind of wing tail thing going on, and there was just this rounded look of some of the old cars that was just the style at the time. So it was kind of fun just from a visual standpoint to see these old cars. The next morning I breathed in some nature by going for a run in my favorite nearby nature area, which is the Sandy Ridge Reservation. It's a 526-acre wetland and wildlife preserve. The August morning that we were there, I'd never seen so many snowy egrets and other birds at this place. Just too many birds to count. So as I looped around the pedestrian path on my run, I watched them hunting and hanging out in trees, which was also unusual, seeing them up in the trees. And the pathway is very exposed to the sun. There aren't overhanging trees on that walkway. So if you go there, make sure you're wearing sunblock on a sunny day. This is a quiet area, and there are usually lots of bird watchers and bird photographers there with their big fancy cameras. All of this video and photography work that I've taken is just from my phone, FYI. Let's just take a quick listen to the sounds of the park there. To get to this open wetlands area is just a short walk through a wooded area. And there's a parking lot and a visitor center there. But I actually always enjoy the walk under the trees and see some chipmunks. And I'm always looking for bears, but there's not bears there, don't worry. Choose to listen to your own music or the sounds of nature, or maybe a combination. But it's a good place to visit. And with those sounds of rain and the mourning doves, that wraps up the highlights for you from our Ohio trip. Safe travels, friends.